The Daedric princes control whole worlds of their own. Each realm is shaped exactly how they want. Some are beautiful, some are nightmares. Every one of them reflects the prince who rules it. Molag Bal's cold harbor looks like a ruined copy of Nirn. Sheogorath's shivering isles are split in two, mania and dementia, like his mind. Apocrypha, home of Hermaeus Mora, is just endless shelves of books floating in black water. These places aren't dead or empty. They're alive with power. Every creature, sound, smell, and rule in them bends to the will of the Daedra who made them. That's what makes it strange that the princes almost never leave. They have entire realms filled with power, but they stay home. They act through servants, cults, or artifacts. You can go to their realms, sometimes even fight them, but they rarely step out. Think about Mehrunes Dagon. When he tried to take Nirn in the Oblivion Crisis, he didn't just walk in. His cult, the Mythic Dawn, needed years to plan it. They needed Monkar Camoran to write the Mysterium Xarxes. They needed the Amulet of Kings destroyed. They needed the Dragonfires unlit. And even then, Dagon only appeared in person for a few moments. The last time a Daedric prince really showed up in full was at the end of Oblivion, during the Battle of the Imperial City, and that was only because all the barriers were broken. You'd think a god of destruction wouldn't need that much help. Same with Molag Bal. He tried to merge Cold Harbor with Nirn in the Second Era, but only after corrupting thousands of souls and hijacking the power of the Crystal Tower. Even Hermaeus Mora, with all his knowledge and the power to drag mortals into Apocrypha, only ever speaks through books, visions, or when someone touches a black book. It's not a lack of strength. These are beings who can twist time, pull mortals out of their bodies, destroy cities with a word, or remake people into monsters. But they don't go beyond their borders. It's not a rule set by the gods. The Daedra weren't part of creation. The ones who helped make the world, the Aedra, gave up parts of their power to shape Mundus. The Daedra didn't. They stayed outside, kept their power, and made their own planes. That's why they're still so strong. But staying outside also means they don't belong to the world. They can't be killed there. They can't die. But they also can't fully stay. That might be part of it. Maybe they need those big rituals and weak points, like the Dragonfires, to even reach Nirn. But there's something else going on. There are stories of princes fighting each other. Boethia overthrew Trinimac. Mehrunes Dagon was created from destruction. Molag Bal is always attacking and invading, yet none of them ever invade Aetherius. They don't even try. They never go after Magnus, the god who brought magic to the world. They don't challenge the stars, or the sun, or the forces beyond. Even when mortals try to touch Aetherius, the Daedra stay back. When the Dwemer used the heart of Lorkhan to become gods, the Daedra didn't stop them. When the Sigic Order uses the power of the stars, the Daedra don't interfere. The towers, the ones set to stabilize reality itself, are all tied to Aetherius, and still, the princes do nothing. Gigalag is the only prince who even seems to think clearly, and he was locked in a curse for being too orderly. If any prince would try to conquer everything, it would be him. But he's stuck in a cycle of madness. Something is keeping the princes where they are. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's law, maybe stepping beyond their realm puts them at risk. Some scholars say Aetherius burns away lies. If that's true, what would happen to a Daedric prince who tried to walk its light? Would they survive it, or are they afraid of being exposed? The princes rule with total control inside their realms. Outside, they're weaker, bound by rules. Look at how easily mortals can push them back with relics or magic. Even a Daedric artifact, if used right, can turn against its maker. The Daedra may be powerful, but they don't like being out of their element. It's easier to send a servant. Easier to tempt someone else. Easier to make a deal. They don't need to fight if they can make you do it for them. That's what they're good at. Tricking, tempting, twisting. Every prince has champions. Every prince has cults. Why bother leaving their throne when a mortal will walk into a trap for them? The question is why they never seem to want more than that. Why none of them, not even Dagon, tries again to invade after losing once. Why they don't reach for the stars. Why they seem happy with their slice of oblivion. There's something they don't want us to know. Or maybe there's something they already do. Either way, they're staying put. Aetherius sits above everything. It's the place where magic begins, the source of all light in the world, and where the stars and sun shine through. Mortals live under its glow and draw their strength from it. Magic flows into Mundus through the sun and stars. That light, that energy, gives mortals the ability to stand against Daedra, to heal, to summon, to destroy, to trap Daedra, and force them to serve. And yet not a single Daedric prince has ever stepped into Aetherius. They build worlds in oblivion, they walk through Mundus when the veil is thin. But when it comes to Aetherius, there is silence. No prince even claims to be from there. They never talk about it. They don't even seem interested in reaching it. Why? If the Daedra are beings of power and will, why would they turn away from the brightest source of magic? Maybe they can't reach it. Maybe they're not meant to. But it could also be something else, something they know that mortals don't. It's not like the princes are scared of danger. Boethia and Molag Bal invite conflict. Mehrunes Dagon lives for destruction. Nocturnal walks in total darkness. But when it comes to the source of divine light, they act like it doesn't exist. Think about the artifacts they give. The ebony blade, the mace of Molag Bal, the Wabbajack, every one of them is bound to the mortal world or to oblivion. None of them pull power directly from Aetherius. There's no spell, no weapon, no ritual given by a Daedra that calls on the stars. That's the domain of the divines. The amulet of kings, the way shrines, the blessings of Talos and Akatosh, all of that comes from Aetherius. The Nine draw power from it because they're connected to it. The Daedra are not. Even in the biggest moments of the series, Oblivion's Crisis, the Plane Meld, the Warp in the West, there is no Daedric movement toward Aetherius. Not even interest. During the Oblivion Crisis, Dagon didn't try to block out the stars or steal the sun's light. His goal was to merge Oblivion with Nirn, but that merging wouldn't have touched Aetherius. It would have pulled Nirn away from the light, not brought the Daedra closer to it. When Molag Bal tried to pull Tamriel into Cold Harbor, he wasn't reaching for divine power. He was trying to twist Mundus into something dead and broken, easier for him to rule. It was about control, not ascent. Even Hermaeus Mora, who sees more than any other prince, never once hints at Aetherius. He speaks of knowledge, secrets, ancient memories, forgotten truths, but all from the past, or from hidden places in Oblivion and Nirn. He never says what lies beyond the stars. There's a pattern here. The Daedra are everywhere, except in the one place mortals think of as heaven. In fact, the only time Aetherius becomes part of the story is when mortals die or when something divine happens. The Dragonborn's final fight against Mirok takes place in Apocrypha, not Aetherius. When Martin Septim becomes the avatar of Akatosh, it's not because of a Daedric deal, it's because of divine blood, an old covenant, and the light of Aetherius burning through. The princes don't just avoid Aetherius, they get blocked by it. In the myth of the Tower, it's said that Lorkhan tricked the other gods into creating Mundus, and that the stars are holes left behind by the Aedra who gave up their power. That power went to Mundus, but it also returned to Aetherius. Maybe the Daedra never gave anything. Maybe that's why they have no reach into Aetherius. It's like trying to walk through a door that was never meant for them. Or maybe they tried once, and something pushed them back. It's possible Aetherius is not just a place of light, it could be guarded. Maybe by the Magna Gei, the spirits who fled creation and formed the stars. Maybe by the Aedra who remained there, or maybe by something no one remembers. The Tribunal once tapped into divine power with the heart of Lorkhan. They tried to become living gods, but even they needed a relic from Nirn to do it, not Aetherius. The heart didn't come from the stars, it was part of Mundus. The gods of the Dunmer never reached beyond that. Even when mortals reach into Aetherius, it's through narrow paths. The Elder Scrolls themselves might be part of that. They let you see the flow of time, break the rules of fate, touch things beyond the world. But even then, the princes don't use them. Mora wants them, hoards them, hides them, but he doesn't use them the way mortals can. It's like there's a line they can't cross. There are also spells that call on ethereal energy, restoration, soul magic, blessings, but again they're part of mortal schools, not Daedric gifts. Daedra offer power, but always twisted. Always tied to fear, pride, pain, or change. None of them offer healing, none of them bless. Aetherius is a source of pure power, untouched by mortal sin or Daedric intent. The princes thrive on control, temptation, and domination. If they went near Aetherius, they might lose all of that. Maybe Aetherius can't be ruled. Maybe it reflects things back, strips away lies, burns through pride. Or maybe it just reminds them of what they aren't. The Daedra didn't create Mundus. They stood aside. Maybe they feared what it meant. Maybe they feared the cost. And maybe they've stayed away from Aetherius ever since, because deep down they know they don't belong there, and never will. Daedric princes are supposed to be these powerful, godlike beings that shape entire realms of oblivion. They don't die, they don't age, and they don't change unless they want to. But even with all that power, they always need mortals to get things done. They hand out Daedric artifacts, promise rewards, send dreams, or manipulate through cults. They whisper from their thrones, but rarely lift a finger. It's easy to miss how strange that really is. Why does Mehrunes Dagon need the Mythic Dawn? Why does Hermaeus Mora need someone like the last Dragonborn to retrieve the Ogma Infinium? Even Molag Bal, who's supposed to be the Lord of Domination, asks for help just to trap a single soul. These aren't small jobs either. They want mortals to corrupt, kill, destroy, open portals, or even reshape the world. It keeps happening again and again. You see it in Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. Even the more reclusive princes, like Mephala or Vermina, have agents among mortals, pushing their goals in the background. But when you look at their realms, you realize it's not because they're lazy. These princes can create entire worlds from nothing. Apocrypha has endless libraries and watchers that see through space. Cold Harbor is a twisted mirror of Nirn. The Shivering Isles shifts depending on Sheogorath's mood. The princes can manifest when they want to. Dagon appears during the Oblivion Crisis. Clavicus Vile speaks through a statue. Azura talks directly through dreams. They're not weak and they're not cut off, but for some reason they always stop short of direct action. They only ever send pieces of themselves or use mortal cults to do the heavy lifting. That pattern says something. It's not just convenience. There's something about mortals that the princes can't imitate. Mortals live and die, and they can change in ways the Daedra can't. Maybe that change gives mortals access to something the princes can't reach on their own. Maybe that's why they always want souls, followers, or champions. The princes can't step into Mundus freely. To them, the mortal world is like a sealed box. They can peer in, but not touch without cost. Dagon needed the Mysterium Xarxes and a full cult to even break through the veil. That alone shows how hard it is for them. Most of the time, they act through influence. They show up in dreams, visions, or voices. Even Sheogorath's appearance in Skyrim comes through a leftover part of the Champion of Cyrodiil. They're not acting as themselves directly. That's not how it works. Hermaeus Mora, for example, waits at the edge of knowledge. He doesn't break into the world. He waits for someone to come to him. Once they do, he latches on. It's like they need permission, or at least a crack to slip through. So they give gifts. The Wabbajack, the Ebony Blade, the Savior's Hide. Each one binds a mortal closer to the Daedra behind it. Even then, the Daedra aren't in full control. Mortals with strong will can turn on them. The Dragonborn can betray Mora, fight Dagon, ignore Boethia, and the Daedra can't always stop it. That power gap is strange. These are ancient beings, older than time, and yet they struggle to act without help. One answer might be the nature of oblivion itself. The Daedra are part of it. They're shaped by its rules. They can't break free without tearing a hole, and that takes effort. Mundus was made to be a prison of sorts, not just for mortals, but also as a space the Daedra can't fully enter. The Daedra gave up part of themselves to make it real. The Daedra never did, so now they exist outside it, looking in. That's why they always act through agents. Mortals are the only real hands they have in Nirn. They give them visions, tools, and temptations. But the actual action has to come from the mortal side. It's not a choice. It's the only way they can move things inside Mundus. That might also explain why they're always watching mortals so closely. They're not just using them, they're studying them. Trying to understand how being so small and weak keeps slipping out of their control. Maybe they don't just need mortals. Maybe they envy them. The power to die and be reborn, to change paths, to grow and decay. These are things the Daedra don't really experience. Every prince has their sphere, and they stick to it. They don't evolve. They don't grow. They don't create life from nothing. But mortals do. That gap might be the key to everything. The Daedra use mortals not because they want to, but because they have to. Not just to act inside the world, but to reach for something they can't ever become. And maybe that's why they keep trying. Not just to rule or to dominate, but to grasp a kind of power they'll never hold on their own. A power that comes from being flawed, limited, and temporary. Something they can't fake, but keep reaching for anyway. Mundus is a place built with rules even gods have to follow. The Daedric princes are powerful, but they can't just show up anywhere they want on Nirn. Their presence is limited by barriers made long ago. These barriers aren't random, they're part of the world's foundation. When the Daedra created Mundus, they gave up parts of their power to form the mortal realm. This act locked certain rules into place, rules that even the Daedra have to obey. No Daedric prince can fully exist in Nirn without using special loopholes or rituals. The Oblivion Crisis showed this clearly. Mehrunes Dagon couldn't just storm into Nirn with his full force. He needed a cult, a series of artifacts, and a ritual to break through the veil. Even then, his hold on the world was temporary and fragile. These limits aren't just magical fences. They are woven into the very fabric of reality. The princes can influence and manipulate, but stepping fully into Nirn requires breaking these ancient laws. The barriers are both physical and metaphysical. They protect Mundus from full invasion by the Daedra, keeping balance between mortal and divine. Some princes find ways to skirt the rules. Clavicus Vile uses contracts and bargains to gain influence indirectly. Sheogorath spreads madness from the edges of reality rather than barging in. Vermina haunts dreams instead of walking openly among mortals. Even the most direct princes are forced to work through agents and rituals. These rules suggest a higher power or system controlling the limits. The Daedra, who created Mundus, shaped these boundaries. Their sacrifice was to make a world where mortals could exist, free from unchecked Daedric interference. The Daedra didn't make these rules, but they are forced to play by them. This dynamic explains why the princes often try to influence the world from afar, instead of direct conquest. They work in shadows, through dreams, artifacts, and mortal followers. The barriers keep them from overwhelming Nirn outright, but not from twisting it from within. It also shows why mortals are so valuable to the princes. Mortals can break or bend these rules, even if the princes cannot. This makes mortals the key to their plans. Whether as champions, cultists, or pawns, mortals act as the hands that move the Daedra's will on Nirn. The boundaries keep the princes contained, but don't make them powerless. They have found ways to adapt and survive within the limits. They use corruption, temptation, and promises to maintain influence. The barriers keep their true power in check, but never remove their threat. The rules of Mundus are like a cage, designed to hold even gods. The Daedric princes are locked out, in a way, but they always seek cracks to slip through. Those cracks appear in mortal hearts, in rituals, in artifacts, and in moments when the world is weakest. The princes watch closely, waiting for opportunities to push their way inside. The barriers are strong, but they are not perfect. They shape how the Daedra act and why they need mortals so badly. Without those limits, the world might have already fallen to their power. The restrictions keep the cosmic balance in place, for better or worse. The Daedric princes live within those boundaries and constantly test them, but they never fully break free. It's a constant game of pushing and pulling, where the princes remain powerful but ultimately confined. Mundus is their prison and their stage. They are actors who must follow the script, even if they try to rewrite it behind the scenes. That's why the barriers matter so much. They define what is possible for the Daedra and shape the story of Nirn itself. The Daedric princes are known to have glimpses of the future and control over fate in many ways, yet even they stumble over certain prophecies that seem to escape their sight or influence. The Elder Scrolls themselves are a mystery that challenges their knowledge. These ancient artifacts show possible futures, yet no prince can fully control or rewrite what they reveal. Mortals tied to major prophecies, like the Nerevarine or the Dragonborn, move through events that often surprise even the most cunning Daedra. These figures fulfill destinies that clash with Daedric plans or even disrupt their schemes entirely. The princes can manipulate events and individuals but can't completely steer these grand tales. The prophecies exist on a level that limits their reach, as if some threads in the weave of fate are beyond even Daedric meddling. The nature of prophecy itself is fluid, often tied to mortal belief and interpretation, making it unpredictable. Even with all their power and knowledge, the princes cannot fully foresee or prevent the rise of heroes destined to challenge them. This lack of full control adds tension to their actions. They must adapt and react rather than dictate outcomes. Some princes, like Hermaeus Mora, obsess over knowledge of the future, but even he is bound by the shifting nature of fate. The Elder Scrolls show many possible paths, and while Daedra may try to guide mortals towards certain ends, those ends are never guaranteed. Mortals hold an unpredictable power in their ability to alter or fulfill prophecies in unexpected ways. The prophecies serve as a check on the prince's ambitions, reminding them that their power has limits. They can create chaos and influence events, but not erase the destiny written in the scrolls. This dynamic pushes the princes to work harder through manipulation, bargains, and temptation to sway mortal actions. They seek to bend fate, but cannot break it entirely. The struggle over prophecy is one reason mortals are so vital to Daedric plans. Mortals are the players who can change the game, even if the princes hold many of the cards. The uncertainty of prophecy keeps the Daedra vigilant and often frustrated. It also adds depth to the mortal role in the world, highlighting their potential to shape the future beyond Daedric designs. This interplay between prophecy, mortal choice, and Daedric power defines much of the conflict in the Elder Scrolls universe. The princes may see much, but they do not see all, and the futures they glimpse are only possibilities, not certainties. This means they must always be ready for surprises and setbacks. The prophecies act as a mysterious force that limits even the gods, showing that some parts of fate belong to mortals and the unknown. It's a reminder that while the Daedric princes are powerful, their vision of the future is incomplete, and mortals have the power to rewrite the story in ways the princes cannot predict or prevent. Artifacts from Aetherius, like Auriel's bow or the Staff of Magnus, hold a power that Daedric princes fear, because it comes from the source of all magic and divine energy itself. These relics are not just weapons. They are extensions of the very fabric of the cosmos that stands opposed to oblivion and the princes who ruled there. While Daedra wield chaos and destruction from their realms, ethereal artifacts carry a purity and order that can undo the work of the princes. The power of these relics is tied to the divine forces that created Mundus and the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. They can cut through the magic of oblivion or shield mortals from Daedric influence in ways that other weapons cannot. This is because they operate on a level of existence where Daedric power is weaker or fundamentally incompatible. Aetherius represents the opposite of oblivion: light instead of darkness, order instead of chaos. Daedric princes draw strength from Oblivion's ever-changing nature, but cannot stand against the constant flow of divine energy from Aetherius without weakening. For example, Auriel's bow channels the light of the sun, which burns and banishes undead and Daedra alike. It forces the princes to retreat or lose power when it is wielded. The Staff of Magnus taps into the wellspring of magical energy and can disrupt enchantments, force open or close portals, and strip away the magical protections Daedra rely on. These artifacts symbolize a direct connection to Aetherius, making them weapons of divine judgment and cosmic balance. The princes are aware that mortals who wield these relics can disrupt their plans and even threaten their realms. This fear limits Daedric actions in the mortal world, as confrontations with wielders of ethereal power often end badly for the princes. Because these artifacts come from a source outside Oblivion, they are not bound by the same rules or weaknesses that govern Daedric power. They act like a counterbalance to Daedric influence, protecting the mortal plane from total domination. This cosmic opposition explains why Daedra avoid Aetherius, and why artifacts from that realm hold such significance in the struggle between mortals and the princes. The presence of these relics creates a kind of cosmic tension, forcing the princes to adapt their schemes and rely on subtler manipulations rather than outright force. In lore, many quests involve mortals retrieving or using ethereal artifacts to challenge Daedric power directly. These stories highlight the dangers Daedric princes face from forces beyond their control. It's clear that despite their vast power, the princes have real reasons to fear and respect relics linked to Aetherius. These artifacts represent the will of the gods who created the mortal world and set its rules. While Daedric princes might be able to influence mortals and the mortal plane indirectly, divine relics act as barriers and weapons that limit their reach. They remind the princes that their power is not absolute, and that forces greater than Oblivion still shape the destiny of the world. The fear of ethereal artifacts also explains why the princes often seek to destroy, corrupt, or hide these relics. They understand that losing control over these objects means losing influence in Mundus. At the same time, mortals who find and wield these artifacts gain a significant edge against Daedric forces. They can resist possession, close portals to Oblivion, and protect the world from destruction. The clash between ethereal relics and Daedric power reflects the eternal conflict between creation and destruction, light and dark, order and chaos. It shows that the balance of power in the Elder Scrolls universe is complex and multi-layered. In short, the prince's fear of divine relics comes from the fact that these objects are connected to the ultimate source of all life and magic. They have the power to undo Daedric influence and stop their schemes in ways no other weapons can. This connection to Aetherius makes them uniquely dangerous and a constant threat to the prince's rule. Akatosh is the god of time and the chief deity of the Aedra, who embody order and stability in the universe. His power shapes the flow of time itself, holding reality together in a steady rhythm. This influence extends over all things within Mundus, including the Daedric princes, who, despite their chaos and unpredictability, are not beyond the reach of his timeline. Even Mehrunes Dagon, the Prince of Destruction and Change, who embodies upheaval and violent transformation, cannot fully escape Akatosh's grasp. When Dagon attempted his invasion of Tamriel during the Oblivion Crisis, his plans were ultimately thwarted by mortal heroes acting within the bounds of time shaped by Akatosh. This shows that the Daedra, for all their power, are bound by certain cosmic laws, and time as governed by Akatosh is one of the most fundamental. The Dragonborn's ability to shout through time using the Thu'um is a direct gift from Akatosh, a power mortals can wield to challenge Daedric and otherworldly threats. This ties the princes to a timeline they cannot break or rewrite, limiting their actions to what fits within the ongoing flow of history. Even when Daedric princes act with great force or cause chaos, they do so inside the framework of time. Their actions have consequences that ripple through the timeline, often creating resistance or intervention from mortals and gods alike. Akatosh's constant presence reminds the princes that while they control realms beyond time, their influence on the mortal plane is subject to the ordered march of hours, days, and years. Furthermore, the existence of the Dragonborn itself, a mortal who can absorb dragon souls and bend time with shouts, is a symbol of Akatosh's power over the fate of mortals and immortals. The Dragonborn's role in ending the Oblivion Crisis and defeating Alduin ties directly into Akatosh's will to maintain order against destruction and chaos. Daedric princes may be mortal, but they are not all-powerful. They are aware that their plans can be undone by forces acting within time, and they must adapt accordingly. This fear of Akatosh's timeline is not just about physical limitation, but also the certainty that events will unfold as destined, despite their interference. Mortals who serve the princes or oppose them are also caught in this web of time. The princes must rely on manipulation and indirect control, since they cannot rewrite history or fully change the future. The inevitability of time forces them to scheme in cycles, always preparing for events that might undo their influence. Akatosh's role as the timekeeper enforces a kind of cosmic balance. While the Daedra are gods of change and chaos, Akatosh represents the constant, unyielding force of time and order that frames all existence. This balance limits how much the princes can alter reality without consequence. The princes' respect and fear of Akatosh are shown in many stories where even their greatest plans fail because time moves forward as it must. Their awareness of this gives mortals a unique advantage, as they too live inside this ordered flow and can act in ways the princes cannot fully predict or stop. In conclusion, Akatosh's power over time is a fundamental reason the Daedric princes are limited in their actions within Mundus. Though they control vast realms and forces beyond mortal comprehension, they remain bound by the timeline Akatosh governs. This connection shapes the struggle between mortals and Daedra, highlighting that time and order, embodied by Akatosh, remain a powerful check on chaos and destruction. Hermaeus Mora is known as the Daedric Prince of knowledge, secrets, and fate. He dwells in Apocrypha, a realm filled with endless black waters and towering shelves holding countless books containing every possible secret. His hunger for knowledge is endless, and he collects memories, forgotten truths, and futures that have not yet come to pass. Yet, despite all his power and vast stores of information, there are always missing pages in his collection. This absence is telling because Hermaeus Mora is not just curious. He is driven to understand all things, but the fact that there are gaps suggests something beyond even his reach. In the stories and quests involving Mora, like in the search for the Ogma Infinium or dealing with the Staff of Towers, his knowledge appears vast, but never complete. He tempts mortals with the promise of forbidden lore, yet he withholds some truths, keeping fragments just out of reach. This hints at something bigger in the universe that even the Prince of Knowledge cannot fully grasp or access. If Hermaeus Mora cannot see everything, then that means there is an order or force that stands beyond his knowledge and influence. Mortals who enter Apocrypha witness the unsettling nature of this unknown, as even the forbidden knowledge here is incomplete. This mystery makes Hermaeus Mora different from other princes, who often act with more direct control and power. Mora's domain is one of mystery and uncertainty, where even the ultimate librarian can be left guessing. It also suggests that the structure of reality is layered with hidden levels that not even a Daedric prince can pierce. For those who serve him or seek his favor, it is a reminder that some truths are dangerous or impossible to know fully. This connects directly to the theme of time and fate controlled by Akatosh. While Akatosh governs time's flow, Mora is concerned with all possibilities and knowledge along that timeline. His inability to see everything hints at a cosmic balance or a deeper force in the universe that limits even him. The missing pages in his endless library symbolize that all knowledge has limits, and that mortality and fate are tied to mysteries beyond even the greatest powers. This adds to the tension between the Daedric princes and the forces shaping Mundus and the cosmos. While the princes act with immense power, they are not all-knowing or all-powerful. Even the Prince of Knowledge must work within a framework he does not fully understand. This sets the stage for the constant struggle and intrigue found in the Elder Scrolls world, where mortals, gods, and Daedra all search for control but face barriers too great for any one being. Hermaeus Mora's missing pages invite us to wonder what lies beyond the reach of gods and legends, what secrets remain hidden, waiting for discovery, and what forces shape fate beyond mortal or divine sight. Magnus, the god of magic and the architect of the ageless power, holds a unique place in the history of Mundus. When the world was being created, Magnus realized the immense cost of binding so much power into the mortal plane. Unlike the other Aedra, he chose to escape Mundus by tearing a hole in reality and fleeing to Aetherius, the realm of pure magic and light. This act created the source of all magic that mortals and gods draw from. What's striking is that the Daedric princes, powerful beings from Oblivion, never tried to stop Magnus. They allowed him to leave without interference. This silence raises questions about what Magnus understood and why the princes chose not to challenge him. Unlike the Daedra, who thrive in Oblivion and often meddle in mortal affairs, Magnus represents order, magic, and balance. His departure sealed the flow of magic into Mundus, but also left it open to the mortal world. The Daedra seem to recognize the importance of this balance, and possibly fear the consequences if Magnus were challenged, or if the flow of magic were disturbed. His escape established a boundary between realms that even the Daedra respect. Some speculate Magnus made a deal or understood a cosmic rule unknown to the Daedra. By leaving, he preserved the stability of the universe, preventing chaos from overwhelming Mundus. His presence in Aetherius creates a shield that protects the mortal realm from full Daedric invasion, or total destruction. This is why artifacts tied to Magnus, like the Staff of Magnus, are powerful tools against Daedric influence. They represent the power of pure magic and order that Daedra fear. The Daedric prince's refusal to interfere with Magnus might also be rooted in respect for his role or fear of provoking a force beyond their reach. Unlike mortal conflicts or struggles over power in Oblivion, Magnus's decision shaped the entire cosmos. His act created a balance between creation and destruction, magic and chaos. Without his escape, the Daedra might have tried to dominate Mundus outright. Magnus's departure allowed the mortal world to exist as a battleground between these forces, but kept the ultimate power of magic somewhat protected. This connection to Hermaeus Mora's missing knowledge is clear. Both hint at larger forces and rules governing existence. Magnus's actions define the limits of power for all beings, Daedric or divine. His role links the flow of magic to time, fate, and knowledge, and his escape shaped the realms of gods and mortals alike. The Daedric princes may fear what lies beyond their reach, Magnus's understanding and the laws he set in place. His flight to Aetherius represents a boundary no prince dares cross, a limit to their influence, and a reminder that some powers are greater than even the lords of Oblivion. Vermina, the Daedric prince of dreams and nightmares, rules over the darker side of the sleeping mind. Her power twists and invades mortal dreams, turning them into nightmares filled with fear, madness, and torment. She uses her artifact, the Skull of Corruption, to steal dreams and feed on mortal fears. However, despite her vast influence over the night and subconscious, there are limits to what she can control. Dreams tied to divine visions or prophecy often lie beyond her reach. Mortal prophets and seers sometimes experience dreams connected to Aetherius, the realm of light, magic, and the divine. These dreams carry messages, warnings, or glimpses of futures that Vermina cannot twist or corrupt. This suggests that Aetherius, the source of all divine power, holds a special place beyond even Vermina's grasp. The bright, pure nature of Aetherius, resists the corruption of nightmares. Prophetic dreams linked to Aetherius seem to be protected by the divine order and the will of the Aedra. These visions serve as a beacon of hope and truth, resisting the influence of chaos and fear that Vermina spreads. Mortals who receive such dreams often become important figures in Tamriel's history, like the Dragonborn or the Nerevarine, whose destinies are tied to the balance between the mortal realm, Aetherius, and oblivion. Vermina's power thrives on fear and uncertainty, but the clarity and purpose found in divine visions act as a counterforce. Her realm is one of twisting nightmares and mental torment, but Aetherius is a realm of light and order. This contrast creates a boundary that Vermina cannot cross. While she controls the night terrors and dark dreams, she cannot corrupt the dreams born from divine connection or fate. This limit may also explain why mortals, even when haunted by nightmares, can still find strength and guidance through prophecy and visions. The power of Aetherius and the divine beings tied to it offer protection from complete mental domination. Vermina's inability to touch these dreams keeps a balance in the spiritual and mental realms. It shows that while Daedric influence is strong, it is not absolute. There is a higher order that guards the pure truths of the cosmos. The connection between Vermina's realm and Aetherius highlights the ongoing struggle between chaos and order, darkness and light. Mortals, caught in between, experience both nightmare and prophecy, fear and hope. This ongoing tension shapes the fate of Tamriel and the choices of its heroes. Vermina's nightmares can haunt the mind, but the divine dreams from Aetherius remind mortals of something greater, beyond fear and madness. Sithis is a shadow older than the Daedric princes themselves, tied to the void that existed before creation. Unlike the princes, who each claim their own realms and powers, Sithis is the emptiness beneath all things, the silence before the first word. He is never mentioned by the Daedric princes, and there are no quests or artifacts clearly linked to him like there are for the others. This absence is telling. Sithis represents something the princes cannot touch or control. The void is the opposite of everything the Daedra stand for. They shape, create, and demand worship. Sithis is the unmaking force, the raw nothingness that underlies all reality. This makes him a unique problem for the princes. Their power depends on existence itself, but Sithis exists outside or beneath existence. In the myths, Sithis is linked to the Dark Brotherhood, who see him as the embodiment of death and the end. His followers act as agents of this void, bringing finality that even the Daedra fear or ignore. Unlike the Daedra, who meddle and manipulate the mortal realm, Sithis represents the natural cycle of life ending and returning to nothingness. This role is fundamental and uncontrollable. Because Sithis is tied to the void, he stands apart from the cosmic order that the Daedric princes try to bend or break. He is not a god of power or creation, but the force that erases power and creation alike. This might explain why the princes never speak of him. Acknowledging Sithis would mean acknowledging a force they cannot beat or bargain with. Some scholars suggest Sithis might even predate the Aedra and Daedra, making him the oldest power in the cosmos. This ancient status adds to the mystery and fear surrounding him. The princes are powerful, but also bound by rules and limits within creation. Sithis is beyond those limits, representing a cosmic reset button. The Daedra's refusal to name him could be seen as denial or fear of a force greater than themselves. Sithis's connection to the void means he is the natural endpoint for all things, including the Daedra and their realms. While the princes rule their spheres and try to influence mortals, Sithis represents the ultimate end, where all influence and existence dissolve. This makes him an existential threat, not through action or battle, but through being the final truth of unbeing. His influence is subtle but absolute: death, silence, and nothingness. Mortals and immortals alike must face Sithis one day, and even the greatest Daedric prince cannot escape that fate. In the struggle for power, Sithis stands apart, not as a rival with armies or artifacts, but as the quiet force that undercuts all power. The Daedric princes may wield chaos, manipulation, and destruction, but Sithis embodies the raw absence from which all things come and to which all things return. Understanding Sithis helps explain why the princes act with caution and rarely leave their realms. The void is a boundary none dare cross, a force that makes even gods pause. Sithis is the unseen presence that defines the limits of Daedric power and the ultimate unknown that shapes the fate of all existence. The Daedric princes hold incredible power within their own realms. They shape worlds, bend reality, and gather countless followers. Yet, for all their might, they cannot create true life. They twist, corrupt, and mimic living beings, but the spark of original creation eludes them. This sets them apart sharply from the gods of Aetherius, who brought life into existence without prior example. The beings called Aedra gave birth to mortal races, shaping flesh and soul from the raw energies of creation. Daedra, in contrast, only rearrange what already exists or manipulate mortal forms to suit their purposes. Their creations are often dark reflections or corrupted versions of true life. Daedric's servants, creatures, and even mortal cultists are born from existing matter and life, shaped by powerful magic and dark will, but they lack the original essence that true life carries. This limit seems fundamental to the nature of the Daedra themselves. They are beings of oblivion, existing outside the original creative force of the universe. They embody change, chaos, and raw energy, but not the sacred spark that creates life from nothing. This spark belongs to the Aedra, who sacrificed parts of themselves to form the world and all living things. Daedra rely on this creation, but cannot replicate it. Their realms teem with creatures, but these are often enslaved spirits, conjured shadows, or twisted forms, bound by the prince's will. Even the most powerful Daedric artifact does not grant the ability to breathe original life into matter. Their power shapes reality but cannot originate it. This limitation might explain why Daedra often manipulate mortals rather than replace them. Mortals carry the unique life essence born of Aetherius, which Daedra covet and exploit. The princes often grant powers, blessings, or curses, twisting mortal life to their designs, but they cannot build a new race or soul from pure oblivion. In some stories, the Daedra attempt to create life but only produce monsters, hollow echoes, or unstable forms. These failed attempts highlight their inability to match the divine creation of the Aedra. It also deepens the divide between the two groups of beings. This gap shapes much of the conflict in Tamriel. The Daedra seek to influence the world by corrupting, controlling, or tempting mortals rather than by outright creation. Their power is vast, but ultimately derivative in the realm of life. Mortals are both tools and treasures to them because they carry what the princes cannot make: original life and soul. This explains the constant need for Daedra to use mortal agents, artifacts, and deals. Without true creation power, they rely on mortals to carry out their will in the physical world. The limit also underlines the greater cosmic order. The Aedra's gift of life is a unique foundational act that the Daedra cannot undo or replicate. It sets boundaries even for these godlike beings. Understanding this boundary reveals why Daedra remain separate and often hostile to mortal life. They crave what they cannot truly make or control. Their existence depends on manipulation rather than original creation. In that way, the Daedric princes are powerful but incomplete forces in the universe, shaping shadows but never the true light of life itself. This truth may be one reason they never fully leave their realms. Without the power of true creation, they must remain in their own domains, reaching out but never fully entering the living world except through mortal conduits. These limits shapes their actions, their desires, and the balance of power in Tamriel. The Daedra's strength is undeniable, but their inability to create life defines an essential weakness and a cosmic boundary they cannot cross. Azura is often seen as one of the kinder Daedric princes, but her power and knowledge run deep in ways that even other princes respect or fear. She is known for giving visions and prophecies to mortals, warnings about dangers and futures that are not fully clear to anyone else. These visions often come in dreams or signs, subtle messages guiding mortals toward choices that could change their fate or the fate of Tamriel itself. Azura's role is unique because she acts like a guardian of certain balances, particularly involving destiny and the cycles of life and death. Unlike many other princes who revel in chaos or destruction, Azura appears to work toward maintaining a kind of order within the chaos. Her knowledge is not just about what is, but what could be, and she understands the threads of fate better than most. This gives her an insight into events that even other Daedra might miss or ignore. Azura's visions have influenced many important events and figures, from the rise of the Nerevarine to the Dragonborn's path. Her warnings often hint at threats that transcend individual realms or moments, pointing toward larger patterns or hidden forces. This makes her more than just a giver of power or a tempter. She becomes a guide through the complex web of destiny. Her insight may come from her connection to the twilight and dusk, times between day and night, where things are not fixed and change is possible. This liminal space might grant her access to secrets that others cannot see. Azura's warnings also suggest a broader knowledge of forces beyond even the Daedric spheres, hinting at cosmic powers or events that shake the foundations of existence. Mortals who follow her or receive her visions often find themselves caught in struggles far bigger than they imagined, indicating that her knowledge touches on realities beyond mortal understanding. This sets her apart from many other princes who are often focused on personal gain, power, or simple chaos. Azura's perspective carries a weight of responsibility that few Daedra share, making her a unique figure who both guides and tests mortals. She seems aware of the limitations and dangers faced not only by mortals, but also by other Daedra, as if she understands that all beings, even princes, are part of a larger scheme. Her prophecies do not always provide clear answers or easy paths. They are often ambiguous, forcing mortals to make choices without full understanding. This ambiguity might be intentional, pushing mortals to shape their own destinies rather than simply follow a set path. Azura's knowledge also touches on the cyclical nature of time and existence. She seems to know that endings lead to beginnings and that change is constant, yet she tries to warn mortals about dangers that could upset the balance too much. This careful guidance suggests she values the stability of Mundus more than other princes do. While other Daedra might seek to disrupt or dominate, Azura's warnings act like subtle checks on chaos. This places her in a complex position, neither fully benevolent nor malevolent, but somewhere in between, working within the system rather than against it. Her visions and warnings keep the mortal world aware of threats, giving them a chance to prepare or act. This ability to foresee danger makes her a powerful player in the fate of Tamriel and beyond. In the grand scheme, Azura seems to hold knowledge that even many Daedric princes do not possess or understand, especially about the forces that govern destiny, fate, and the unseen rules that shape reality. This might explain why mortals often revere her more than other princes, and why her followers tend to be more devoted and hopeful. Her place among the Daedra is unique because she bridges the gap between divine knowledge and mortal experience, offering guidance in a world where most forces are chaotic and self-serving. This makes her a figure of mystery and respect, one who watches over the turning of the wheel and the unfolding of time, warning mortals about dangers that even gods might fear to face. Some of the biggest events in Tamriel's history caused massive destruction and upheaval. The rise of Numidium, the return of Alduin, and the Oblivion Crisis all shook the world to its core. These events threatened not just mortals, but the very fabric of reality. Yet during many of these crises, several Daedric princes stayed distant. They didn't jump in with armies or overwhelming power. This absence raises questions about their true motives and limits. Numidium was a towering golem with power to rewrite reality. It was a threat unlike any other. Many might expect the Daedra to take action, to try to control or use it for themselves. But instead, most princes watched from their realms. Why? Alduin's return meant the end of the world as mortals knew it. He was the World Eater, a force tied deeply to time and prophecy. The Daedra could have tried to stop him or gain power from the chaos. Yet many princes remained silent, letting mortals handle the crisis. The Oblivion Crisis was when Mehrunes Dagon led a full invasion into Tamriel. This was the closest the Daedra came to direct conquest. But even then, not all princes took part. Some stayed behind, refusing to commit to open war. Their realms were connected to Oblivion, but they chose to hold back. The question is why? One possibility is that the princes respect certain cosmic rules or limits. Their power is vast but not unlimited. Stepping beyond these limits could threaten their own realms or existence. Direct involvement might risk more than it gains. Another idea is that the princes use mortals as pawns for a reason. By keeping distance, they manipulate events behind the scenes without risking their full power. Letting mortals struggle and shape outcomes means the princes don't have to expend energy or reveal weaknesses. It also keeps mortals dependent on their favors and artifacts, maintaining influence in subtler ways. The princes might also fear forces beyond their control. Even powerful Daedra can be cautious when dealing with events tied to fate, prophecy, or the gods of Aetherius. Some threats may be bigger than the princes themselves. Their silence could be a sign of fear or strategic retreat. This distance preserves their realms, avoiding collapse or invasion by rivals. It might also show respect for the natural order or the rules set by higher powers. In many cases, the princes only act when it benefits them directly. If a crisis does not threaten their realm or plans, they may choose to stay uninvolved. This selfishness doesn't mean they lack power, but shows their focus on self-preservation and advantage. Observing from afar also lets the princes learn and adapt. Crisis can reveal new weaknesses or opportunities. Waiting until the right moment to intervene can maximize gains and minimize risks. This pattern fits with their often manipulative and cunning natures. The princes rarely commit without a plan or purpose. They might allow mortals to weaken each other or the world, then step in to claim the spoils. This calculated patience is a form of power in itself. Finally, their absence during major events highlights their limits despite their godlike status. The princes are mighty but not all-powerful. They operate within a system where certain forces or rules bind them. This restraint shapes their behavior and keeps the balance between Oblivion, Mundus, and Aetherius. Understanding why the Daedric princes hold back during crises reveals more about their true nature. They are beings of power, but also caution and calculation. Their silence is not just absence, but a strategic choice that shapes the fate of Tamriel and beyond. The towers hold Mundus together. They are ancient and powerful structures tied to the very shape of reality. If one falls, the world can change or even unravel. Yet, the Daedric princes rarely mention the towers. For such powerful beings who meddle in mortal affairs and shape realms of oblivion, this silence is striking. Why do they ignore something that is so crucial to the stability of everything? The towers represent order and balance. They link Mundus to Aetherius and help keep time and space in place. Without them, chaos would overwhelm the world. The Daedra thrive on chaos, but even they seem to respect the balance the towers provide. Unlike the Daedra, the towers are tied to the gods of Aetherius, beings whose power often clashes with the princes. The towers stand as symbols of creation and permanence, while the Daedra's realms are change and destruction. The princes may avoid speaking of the towers because acknowledging them could mean admitting limits to their influence. The towers are anchors mortals rely on, places where magic flows clean and the god's power is strongest. For the Daedra, who rule through Oblivion's shifting chaos, the towers represent forces they cannot easily control or destroy. When one tower falls, reality bends and shifts. This can have unexpected effects even on the prince's realms and plans. Some stories hint that Daedra have tried to influence or corrupt the towers, but never fully succeeded. Their power is ancient and tied to the structure of the universe itself. The silence around the towers might also be a form of respect or fear. Destroying a tower could backfire and weaken the Daedra's own power. The princes prefer to work around the towers, manipulating mortals who depend on them instead of confronting the towers directly. By ignoring or avoiding the topic, they keep their intentions hidden. This secrecy helps maintain their mysterious and unpredictable nature. Mortals rarely understand the importance of the towers or the risks if they fail. The Daedra's silence preserves this mystery and maintains the fragile balance. The towers connect to many other forces: time, magic, and prophecy. They stand at the crossroads of all realities. For Daedra, who live in realms of change, the towers are a constant they cannot erase. Their silence hints at the power the towers hold over even the mightiest princes. The towers' role in stabilizing Mundus means that any threat to them risks all existence. Even the Daedra, who enjoy chaos, seem to know that total collapse would destroy their own realms too. The silence is not just ignorance or dismissal. It is cautious calculation. It shows that some things are beyond even Daedric understanding or control. For all their power, the princes face limits, and the towers are one of those limits. The mystery and quiet around the towers add to the complex picture of Daedric power. They are beings who shape fate and war, but who respect, fear, or at least avoid the structures that hold the world together. Their silence speaks volumes about the strength and importance of the towers in the universe. Beyond oblivion and the void lies a mystery that even the Daedric princes seem unaware of or unwilling to confront. The Daedra come from the chaos of Padome, the primal force of change and disorder before creation. Oblivion itself is a realm born from that chaos, filled with infinite planes shaped by the princes. But some ancient texts and lost lore suggest there might be something beyond even that, the unknown beyond the void itself. The void is often described as the emptiness or the nothingness from which everything sprang. It is the source of Sithis, a being tied to endless darkness and the absence of form. If the Daedra come from this raw chaos, then what lies beyond? Some scholars speculate that beyond the void there is a greater emptiness, a deeper mystery that even Padome does not encompass. This could be the origin of all things, a place or state that predates even the cosmic forces of creation and destruction. The Daedra are powerful, but tied to oblivion's bounds. They thrive within chaos, but operate inside defined realms. Beyond the void, it is said, might be a realm where no force, Daedric or divine, holds sway. This could explain why the princes rarely explore or speak of anything past oblivion. Their power is immense but limited. Some believe that this unknown beyond the void is where true nothingness exists, pure absence without even the spark of chaos. If so, it is a place beyond understanding, where all concepts of existence and power break down. Others suggest it might be a realm of potential, where new universes or realities might be born, untouched by any current cosmic force. The Daedra's origin in Padome's chaos sets a boundary to their existence. They can reshape oblivion endlessly, but the unknown beyond might be a place of final freedom or absolute silence. Mortals rarely learn about this mystery. It is hidden in the oldest myths, whispered in forbidden texts, and suggested by the strange properties of certain Daedric artifacts or forgotten places. The princes themselves may fear this unknown or see it as irrelevant to their ambitions, focused as they are on controlling mortals and fighting for power within oblivion. The idea of something beyond all things challenges the Daedra's claim to power. It hints at forces or realities outside their reach or knowledge. The void itself is a barrier and a border. Beyond it could lie nothingness, rebirth, or something completely alien to known existence. This unknown beyond the void deepens the mystery of the cosmos in the Elder Scrolls. It shows that despite the Daedra's power, there are limits to what any being can understand or control. The silence and avoidance of this topic among the princes reflect a fear or respect for something greater than themselves. It is a reminder that even gods live within boundaries, and beyond those boundaries may lie the true unknown. What if the reason the Daedric princes never set foot in Aetherius isn't just fear or weakness, but something more concrete? Aetherius is the realm of pure magic, light, and divine power. It's where the Aedra fled during the creation of the world, and where Magnus tore his path to freedom. The Daedra's domains are chaotic and wild, but Aetherius remains distant and untouched by their influence. One possible explanation is that Aetherius is guarded, protected by forces far older and stronger than the Daedra themselves. These guardians could be ancient entities born from the very essence of creation, existing beyond the scope of mortal understanding and Daedric ambition. The Aedra, whose power is tied directly to Aetherius, might have left behind watchers to defend this realm against the corrupting chaos of oblivion. These beings would be dedicated to preserving the purity and balance of Aetherius, stopping anyone who threatens its order. If these guardians exist, they would be impossible for the Daedra to defeat or even challenge. This would explain why the princes never openly attack or enter Aetherius, despite their hunger for power and influence. Their chaotic natures might be strong in their own realms, but against such eternal protectors, they would be powerless. The idea of guardians also fits with the way Aetherius fuels magic in Mundus. Mortals draw power from Aetherius through starlight and divine grace, but that power is regulated and kept in balance. Unchecked access by the Daedra would disrupt that balance, so these guardians keep a firm watch, maintaining the rules and boundaries that the Daedra cannot break. This guarding force could also explain why artifacts tied to Aetherius, like Oriel's bow or the staff of Magnus, are so effective against the Daedra. These objects carry a piece of Aetherius's pure power, protected and enforced by the guardians. When used against the Daedra, they harm in ways that no ordinary weapon or magic can. The guardians might not be active players in the world's ongoing conflicts, but their presence influences the rules of power and the limits on the Daedra. They could be silent watchers, eternal sentinels who prevent chaos from spilling into the realm of divine order. For the Daedra, this creates a boundary they do not cross, a realm that remains unreachable and off-limits no matter how ambitious they are. Their influence thrives in oblivion and on Mundus, but Aetherius is a realm where their power does not reach. This possibility also ties into the greater mysteries of the cosmos. If the Daedra, who are powerful and ancient, cannot challenge these guardians, then there must be forces in the universe, even beyond the prince's understanding. It raises questions about what other cosmic entities exist and what roles they play in maintaining balance. The silence of the Daedra on Aetherius might be more than fear. It might be respect or recognition of forces they simply cannot oppose. This guarding presence would be a reason why mortals can still wield divine magic and why the world remains stable despite the chaos of oblivion. It's a boundary set in place by something far older and stronger than the Daedric princes themselves. Dragon breaks are some of the strangest and most confusing events in Elder Scrolls lore. These moments happen when timelines split and overlap, causing reality to fracture. Time doesn't flow in a straight line, but instead loops, twists, and overlaps with itself. During these events, multiple versions of history can happen at once, and the normal rules of cause and effect break down. What's fascinating is that the Daedric princes, beings who control chaos and oblivion, seem confused or powerless when dragon breaks occur. They don't stop these breaks, nor do they cause them. This is strange, because the Daedra often meddle in mortal affairs and manipulate reality in their own realms. Yet with dragon breaks, they seem to be outsiders. This raises the question, if the Daedra don't control dragon breaks, then who does? The answer is never fully clear, but it points to powers or forces even beyond the Daedra's reach. Some hints suggest that dragon breaks are tied to the nature of time itself and the structure of the cosmos. Akatosh, the dragon god of time, is deeply connected to the flow of time, and his influence might be involved in these breaks. However, Dragon breaks seem to happen when the normal flow of time fractures in ways that even Akatosh cannot fully control. Mortals can also be involved in these events. Prophets, heroes, and artifacts sometimes trigger or influence dragon breaks, but they are not fully responsible either. The Elder Scrolls themselves are linked to these breaks, as they contain knowledge of all possible futures and timelines. The fact that the Daedra don't interfere suggests that dragon breaks are not part of their domain or power. They exist outside the chaos and order that the princes can influence. Dragon breaks may represent moments where the universe resets or rewrites itself, maintaining balance beyond any single power's control. The Daedra's inability to affect these events implies limits on their knowledge and power, even though they are ancient and formidable. This also connects to the earlier idea of guardians or forces beyond the Daedra, overseeing cosmic order and protecting the structure of reality. Dragon breaks could be part of a natural process governed by these higher powers. The Daedra are powerful and chaotic, but they operate within boundaries set by greater cosmic rules. Dragon breaks expose those limits, showing moments when even gods must step back and watch as time itself fractures. These events remain mysterious and rare, leaving many questions unanswered. Why do these breaks happen? Who truly controls them? How do they fit into the grand scheme of the universe? The Daedra's silence and powerlessness during dragon breaks highlight that there are still many unknowns in the Elder Scrolls cosmos, with forces beyond even the princes waiting in the shadows of time. The Amaranth is one of the most mysterious and powerful ideas in Elder Scrolls lore. It represents the creation of a new godlike being who can shape an entire reality from nothing. This isn't just becoming a god among others, but a complete rebirth of existence itself. Mortals are said to have the potential to reach the Amaranth, to break free from the limits of the universe, and create their own dream world. The Daedric princes, powerful as they are, never seem to reach for this path. Instead, they remain trapped within their Oblivion realms, bound by the laws of existence they did not create. The Amaranth is fundamentally different from the power the Daedra hold. The princes are aspects of chaos and order, bound to their own spheres, their influence limited to the rules of Mundus and Oblivion. Becoming Amaranth means breaking those rules entirely, stepping outside all existing realities to make something new and unique. The fear Daedra have toward the Amaranth may come from what it represents: complete freedom and independence from the cosmic hierarchy they exist within. Mortals who achieve Amaranth no longer serve the old gods or princes. They become creators in their own right. This could threaten the Daedra's power or make their influence irrelevant. Daedra are often jealous and possessive of their realms and followers. Seeing mortals reach Amaranth could mean losing everything they built. The process of becoming Amaranth requires a kind of transcendence the Daedra may not be capable of. It means breaking the cycle of influence and fate that the Daedra themselves rely on. Mortals have the unique chance to reshape the cosmos from a blank slate. Daedra, on the other hand, are bound by their origin from Padame's chaos and their role as rulers of Oblivion's fragmented realms. The Amaranth is also tied to dreams, and the concept of dreamers creating worlds. Mortals might dream a new reality into existence, while Daedra are more like pieces within existing dreams, unable to break free. This is why the Daedra avoid the path of the Amaranth and instead compete within the boundaries of their own domains. The Amaranth represents a power and freedom beyond their reach. It highlights the ultimate potential of mortals versus the limits of immortal princes. In this way, the Amaranth is something to fear, not just because it threatens their influence, but because it shows the Daedra's fundamental limits. It suggests that no matter how strong they are, there are forces and futures they cannot control or become. This fear helps explain why the Daedra focus on manipulating mortals rather than surpassing them. Mortals who become Amaranth escape manipulation entirely and become creators instead of subjects. The Daedra may watch this from their planes, knowing that the dreamers who reach Amaranth could reshape or even erase their realms. In the end, the Amaranth is a reminder that in the Elder Scrolls universe, power is not just strength or influence, but the ability to create new realities, and that is a step the Daedra cannot take. The Daedric princes are some of the most powerful and feared beings in the Elder Scrolls universe. They rule entire realms of oblivion and shape reality in ways mortals can barely understand. Yet when you look closer, you see they rarely act like true gods in the way we imagine. Instead, they rely on tricks, illusions, and manipulation through mortal agents. They don't often show up in person or solve problems directly. Instead, they use intermediaries, bargains, and subtle influence to get what they want. This pattern raises a question. What if the princes are not as all-powerful as they seem? What if their grand displays of strength hide a deep fear or weakness? The way they constantly send mortals to do their work could suggest limits in their direct power. If they were truly invincible, why need servants at all? The illusions they weave to maintain control might be signs of insecurity. The princes seem to create myths about themselves, spreading stories to make mortals believe they are gods beyond question. But illusions and tricks can only cover so much. Their reluctance to step outside their realms and face the world directly hints at boundaries they cannot cross. The Daedra have immense power inside Oblivion, but Mundus and Aetherius seem off-limits without special conditions. That restriction could be a sign they aren't truly gods of everything, only rulers within defined spheres. Their grand arrogance might be a mask for a fear of losing influence or exposure. Behind the confident bluster lies an awareness that their power depends on fragile constructs, mortal belief, bargains, and the balance of cosmic forces. Mortals themselves often gain power by challenging or tricking the princes. That wouldn't happen if the princes were invulnerable. Instead, they respond by tightening control, hiding in their realms, and using fear to maintain order. Their power may be immense, but also fragile and reliant on appearances. This doesn't mean they are weak in an absolute sense. Many of their artifacts and spells bend reality and cause destruction beyond mortal means. But compared to the infinite and unknowable forces beyond Oblivion, their strength has limits. They are not omnipotent. This could explain their obsession with secrecy, manipulation, and bargains. It may also explain why they avoid true confrontation with the forces of Aetherius and the mysteries of Mundus. The Daedric princes might be playing roles, maintaining illusions of control to hide their vulnerabilities. This perspective doesn't diminish their danger, but makes their motives and actions more complex. They are powerful, yes, but also beings who may fear what lies beyond their reach and hide it behind godlike facades. Mortals who deal with the princes walk a fine line between worship and trickery, between gaining power and being used. Understanding the princes as masters of illusion, as well as power, helps explain why they behave as they do. They keep their true nature hidden, and that mystery is part of their strength and their weakness. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.